TikTok is where chaos makes its breeding ground. And when this type of chaos springs up before our very eyes, we can't help but let our jaws drop to the floor, eyes bulge out of their sockets, and ears widen 10 times more than an elephant's. Because not everyone would pan their camera to their faces and give us a 5-part story time on how her husband was sleeping with her daughter. Yes, her very own daughter. The character in today's story is this woman named Melaine. 52 years old, self-described artist, and the kind of woman who will look directly into a camera and tell you that everything she's about to say is her truth, her experience, and what happened to her. For this particular drama, 6 words was all it took, and TikTok lost its mind. Thousands of people in her comments overnight, calling the daughter every name available, sending Melaine money, telling her she was brave, telling her she deserved better, telling her they believed every word. And they did, because on the surface, a husband leaving his wife for her own daughter sounds like the kind of story that only happens in a Lifetime movie, the kind of betrayal so complete and personal that your brain can't help but pick a side immediately. But here's what those thousands of people didn't know when they flooded her comments.
Not one time ever have I said that anything will happen between my husband and my daughter. But you know what I do have? Lots of little breadcrumbs that led me to come to that conclusion.
She just laid breadcrumbs and let everyone else follow them to a conclusion she'd already built the road toward. And while thousands of strangers were in her comments calling her daughter every name in the book, the people who actually know this family were saying something very different.
Dear toxic family.
So here is the question that nobody asking did the affair happen has stopped to ask. What if the affair was never the real story? What if the real story is older than The Husband, the 5-part series, and this is just the latest chapter in something Melaine has been running her entire adult life just with a bigger audience than she's ever had before?
You thought you were going to be able to just treat me any old way, and I was going to sit back and accept it and not tell people what you did? Dear toxic family, how mistaken are you?
To understand how we got here, you need to understand where here actually started.
So we have to go all the way back to June, July of 2024.
June 2024. Melaine and her husband, who we'll call Bob, were lying in bed one night in their home in Idaho when Bob said something that completely changed the direction of the next year of their lives.
I don't think I can. I'm worried that I'm going to hurt myself because I'm crumbling under the financial pressure of this relationship.
He was drowning financially. At least, that's how Melaine described it. According to her, he admitted he had maxed out their home equity line of credit around $50,000 on top of burning through every credit card they had. And she says she had no idea any of this was happening. Because their finances were split, separate bank accounts, Bob handled the bills, Melaine focused on her businesses, an art studio, online teaching, dog sitting. Whatever money came in from that went straight back into groceries, supplies, and keeping things afloat.
We lived in a home together that we purchased with my mom. She put in $251,000 cash as a down payment on our home. We put in like $38,000, I think, when we bought it together. When my mom passed away, I inherited her portion of our home. Okay, so I just want to preface that in this video.
And that detail matters early because later the entire question of who actually created the debt becomes one of the biggest fights in the story. Melaine has one version, other people involved have another, and the gap between those two versions is huge.
You know, I'm not mad about the money. I'm thinking, how can I fix this? How can I save my husband if he's thinking about hurting himself?
Melaine says her reaction was immediate problem-solving mode. Figure it out, keep moving, fix the situation first, panic later. Then, months later, the phone rang. It was her daughter.
So fast forward to August, and I get a phone call from my daughter, and she asks me if I'll fly out to Virginia. We were living in Idaho at the time. If I would fly out to Virginia to help paint her house.
Her daughter, 28 years old and living in Virginia, runs a TikTok account under the name McMath House. She had inherited a house from her biological father after he passed away in 2023, and she was deep into renovating it. Not casually renovating either. Full reconstruction, full content rollout. The Magnolia Network had already picked it up for a television show, and deadlines were getting close fast. She needed help desperately. And that detail about the father matters too, because this wasn't just some random inherited property property sitting on a quiet street somewhere. This was her father's house, the man she had chosen to live with after her parents split when she was a child. The same man Melaine would later accuse of turning the child against her for years. That history had already been sitting underneath this family long before anybody packed a U-Haul. So Melaine went, and according to her, she worked non-stop once she got there, painting the entire house herself. 3 floors, doors, trim, starting around 6 in the morning and ending close to 11 at night.
On the day that they were taping the show, I was still painting. Like, I was painting from 6 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night some days. Just me by myself. So I saved the day, we do the taping.
In her version of events, she came in and saved the project. Those are basically the terms she describes it in, and while she was there, she told her daughter about the financial situation back home. The debt, Bob's mental state, everything collapsing at once, and by Melaine's own telling, the daughter responded generously.
So she says, why don't you guys come live with me and my boyfriend? They were living in the house together. Why don't you come live with us and I can get your husband a job at the place where I work?
A job offer, a place to stay, help paying off the debt, a fresh start. On the surface, it sounded like a daughter stepping in after hearing her mother was struggling, like an attempt to rebuild something that had been broken for years. What Melaine left out in this section, though, was how fragile that relationship already was. Because according to the daughter later on, the two of them had barely been in contact for years. There'd already been distance, estrangement, long stretches of separation, and the reconnecting only really happened after her father died in 2023. She was grieving, trying to reconnect with family and rebuild something. And during that window, she invited her mother back into her life, then into her home.
He talks to the owner of the company, okay? And the company is a home construction company, and there's 4 employees at this place. And my daughter's one of the employees, okay? So it's super small. And oh, by the way, I want to preface this video by letting you know that while we were living in Idaho, and for 7 years that we were living there, my husband worked for my brother's company. That's it been in my family my whole life. My grandfather started it. So he was working for my family business when we left, moved to Virginia, and started staying with my daughter. So he takes the job interview on a Thursday. And on Friday, the guy offers him the job. On Sunday, he's on a plane to Virginia to stay with my daughter and to start his new job.
Bob accepted the construction job and moved first, working alongside the daughter at the same small company connected to the renovation work. Meanwhile, Melaine stayed behind in Idaho for another 8 weeks, trying to dismantle an entire life piece by piece, selling belongings, closing down parts of her businesses, packing years of living into a U-Haul trailer. Then she drove across the country alone with her dog, heading toward what she believed was going to be a reset.
Living my life out in Idaho, like, thinking I'm getting ready to sell my dream home. I'm going to live with my daughter. We're going to travel. We're going to get to spend time with my kids. It's going to be amazing. And I'm so excited.
She arrived in Virginia.
They acted like they weren't even happy that I was there.
And according to her, almost immediately, things felt wrong.
So I get there, and I've been on the road for 4 days, mind you, okay? And they've known I'm coming for 2 weeks. And I get there with a tiny little U-Haul, expecting them to have a room cleared out for me to unpack my office so I can get to work. And they haven't even cleaned the room out.
She argued with her daughter for 3 days about unpacking. The daughter told her she needed to paint the room before moving her stuff in. Melaine, who had just driven cross-country after spending 8 weeks dismantling their Idaho life piece by piece, had to leave everything in the U-Haul while she painted. Now, stop right there. Because if you go back to part 1, Melaine told everyone she had already gone to Virginia earlier that year and painted the entire house. Everything. 6 in the morning to 11 at night.
I stayed at my daughter's house and I painted the whole entire home. 3 floors, doors, all the stuff, trim.
But now she had arrived to move in permanently and was suddenly being told to paint a room before she could even unpack, which raised a simple question almost nobody in her comment section asked. If she painted the whole house, why was there still a room that needed painting? The daughter's own page tells a completely different story. Video after video shows her doing the work, mopping the original 1910 hardwood floors herself, renovating, rebuilding, documenting the process, but nowhere was there footage of Melaine painting 3 floors floors alone for 2 straight weeks. According to the daughter, Melaine painted one room, the office she wanted for her own studio, and she only painted it because the daughter told her to do it before moving her things in. One room, not 3 floors, not some last-minute rescue mission before the cameras arrived, but that one room became the foundation of Melaine's sacrifice narrative, the proof of everything she claimed she had done, the thing she kept bringing up over and over again.
She flies out here because I'm like, can you help me? Literally the first time I've asked her for help probably in my entire adult life. I buy her plane ticket, she flies out here, she paints the remaining things in the house. I have already hired painters. I think it was a $3,000 invoice to spray prime my entire house, which is why the walls are white. That's what primer is. You have to prime walls before you paint them. They back roll the spray. They finish the first floor entirely, all the doors, everything. I paint the 3rd floor. She does the trim in the bathroom upstairs and the exterior doors. She helps me, but then she uses this against me. So it wasn't like she really wanted to help me because she's my mom. She's doing it because then she's gonna weaponize it against you later.
And there's another layer here that Melaine herself almost revealed without realizing it. She mentioned that the daughter wanted to be featured on the Magnolia Network show. She said part of the reason she came to paint was because she expected to end up on camera. But when the filming happened and she wasn't featured because she had only painted one room and not the entire house, the story shifted. Suddenly it became, I painted everything and nobody acknowledged me. Meanwhile, the daughter's renovation had already been documented for months on her own page. Every repair, every floorboard, every project. But somehow the story got reframed into Melaine swooping in and saving the entire renovation herself.
I save the day, we do the taping.
Moving on, the living situation had apparently been tense from the beginning. By Melaine's own account, her daughter started giving her the silent treatment almost immediately. She complained about Melaine smoking weed, even though the daughter and her boyfriend smoked too.
She's upset that I'm smoking cannabis, which is ridiculous because she smokes it and so does her boyfriend.
Then came the complaints about cleaning products, cleaning methods, the way Melaine mopped floors that the daughter had already shown herself mopping in her own videos. And then Melaine started talking about the daughter's boyfriend. That was where things started getting interesting.
She didn't love him, she didn't want him there, but she knew she couldn't afford it without his money.
According to Melaine, her daughter hated her boyfriend, complained about him constantly, said he drank too much, said she wanted him gone and only kept him around because he helped pay the mortgage. Now here's the problem with that version of events. The daughter had been with this man for over 5 years. He appeared all over her page. They traveled together, lived together. By every public indication, they looked like a stable couple. But in Melaine's version, the relationship was miserable. And that detail conveniently set up the implication that the daughter might have been looking somewhere else. Meanwhile, Bob and the daughter were getting along. They worked together, came home together, built the kind of easy familiarity that happens when 2 people spend 8 hours a day in the same environment. And Melaine watched all of it from the outside.
They were always talking about their job and laughing together, and it was like this real buddy club, but I wasn't included.
Melaine eventually started setting boundaries. She asked Bob to stop discussing their marriage with her daughter. She said he was treating the daughter like a confidant by venting about private marital issues to a 28-year-old woman who already had unresolved problems with her mother. But according to Melaine, Bob told her he wasn't going to stop.
I was setting a hard boundary, and he told me in the car that day that he would not stop speaking to my daughter about our relationship.
And honestly, that specific issue was legitimate. A husband refusing to stop discussing his marriage with his wife's daughter while they lived together and worked together every day was a real boundary problem, but Melaine didn't stop there.
The fact that both of them had been smearing my name to my family, to my father, to my brothers, to my best friend, to people around town, just telling them that I was lazy, that I refused to get a job, that I maxed out all of his credit cards.
According to her, the two of them were basically running a coordinated campaign against her, telling people she was a drug addict, financially irresponsible, lazy, refusing to work. The daughter's version of events painted a different picture entirely, and it led right back to the debt. Because according to the daughter, and later confirmed by Bob himself, the financial problems weren't caused by him, they were caused by Melaine. An expensive marijuana habit, a timeshare she pressured Bob into buying after promising she'd get a job to help pay for it. A job she never got. Years of loans and maxed out credit cards supporting a lifestyle funded almost entirely by one person.
Is really what most of her relationship issues tie back to. With my dad, with her second husband, you want to be swiping the credit card on this, that, and the other, but you don't want to.
Bob, the man Melaine described as financially destroying their lives, had apparently been the sole provider throughout the entire relationship, and nobody outside Melaine's own version of the story disputed that, but Melaine's version was the one going viral. And the story she told those people was everything that would get her sympathy at first listen. A woman sacrificed everything for a man who betrayed her with her own daughter. What she left out was the fact that she cheated on him first.
A couple days later, I get a text message on my phone, and it's from the pharmacy in town. And it says my husband's name, and it says, "You have a prescription ready."
At this point, Melaine was back in Idaho, overseeing the sale of the house, while Bob stayed behind in Virginia. She slept on a mattress on the floor while getting everything ready for the new owners. According to her, the two of them fought constantly and hadn't been intimate in 6 months. She blamed all of that on the tension inside her daughter's house. And then a pharmacy notification showed up on her phone. Because of her background working in pharmacies, Melaine knew a prescription like that didn't just appear out of nowhere. It had to be discussed, requested, and approved. So this automatically means somebody had asked for it.
Little blue pill prescription for my husband. And I said, why did he do that? Because we hadn't been having for like 6 months because we were living in my daughter's house.
When she asked Bob who the prescription was for, he told her it was just to make himself feel better.
And I said, who is that for? What do you mean you've never had a problem with that before? What is this? And he goes, oh, well, I did ask for it because I just got it. I got it to make me feel better.
And somewhere between that answer and everything else already happening in the house, the affair theory took shape in her mind. Now, to be fair to Melaine for a second, finding out your husband ordered that kind of prescription while living under your daughter's roof after months of emotional distance would absolutely raise alarm bells. That was a real moment of suspicion, a real question. But Bob never publicly elaborated beyond that explanation, and Melaine, already isolated and suspicious, filled in the blanks herself.
At this point, I point blank asked him if there was something going on between him and my daughter.
He denied it, but by then she already had what felt like a pattern. They worked together, they traveled together, they went on a 5-day work trip to Las Vegas with coworkers and their boss. And after they came back, the daughter apparently stopped speaking to Melaine completely.
He comes home from the airport with him, walks in, doesn't even say hello to me. I was washing the dishes, I'll never forget it. She walked right by me, went upstairs, didn't say anything to me, and then just went on a silent treatment.
From the outside, it was a normal business trip, but inside that house, nothing felt normal anymore. This was already a family drowning in resentment and suspicion, a wife who felt frozen out, a husband refusing to stop confiding in her daughter, a daughter who had already gone through estrangement with her mother once before. So when they came back from Vegas and the silence got worse, Melaine connected the dots in the worst possible way. A prescription she never asked about, a trip she wasn't part of, a daughter who completely shut her out afterward. To her, those weren't random details anymore. They were breadcrumbs, and she followed them straight to a conclusion she could never prove.
And I'm never going to say that something special happened because I can't prove that. All I know is what happened to me and what it looks like.
She always phrased it carefully enough to avoid directly saying it. And then she posted this. Because technically, she never outright accused them of an affair, but she structured the sentence in a way that practically forced people toward that conclusion. My husband left me for my daughter. Not my husband left me and sided with my daughter. Not my husband left me and got close to my daughter. For my daughter, that wording carried the entire implication. And it worked. Thousands of strangers saw 6 words and immediately filled in the rest themselves. The daughter got flooded with insults. Melaine got sympathy, support, prayers for healing journey. What almost none of them knew yet was that the marriage had apparently ended because Melaine cheated on Bob and admitted it herself. That's from Bob himself. He sent that message to this YouTuber, Amy Robinson. The same man Melaine portrayed as part of some conspiracy with her daughter publicly stated that he didn't ask for a divorce until after she cheated and posted about it online. The affair that ended the marriage wasn't between Bob and the daughter. According to him, it was Melaine's affair that ended everything.
The closing, it's like 6:15, and my husband and I are laying in bed, and I woke up and I felt him like staring at me.
This was the scene Melaine repeated more than any other. The exact time, the way he looked at her in the dark, the way he rested on his fist while staring at her. She described every detail. According to her, they had just spent 3 good nights together in Idaho. They'd looked at property together, talked about the future, acted like things were improving. And then at 6:15 in the morning, he was sitting there staring at her.
And I said, what? And he goes, I talked to a lawyer. And I said, about what? and he said a divorce.
Her first question was whether he had already told her daughter about the divorce. He didn't answer, so she asked again.
He told my daughter several weeks before that he had got an attorney about a divorce.
And honestly, regardless of everything else in this story, that part landed. A husband telling his wife's daughter he planned to divorce her before telling his wife herself was a real betrayal. That was genuinely cruel. So according to Melaine, she pulled over during the drive back to Virginia and cried for 4 hours in a gas station parking lot while Bob stayed in the car behind her on his phone. That image was painful, and she had every right to feel hurt by it. But again, the part of her series never fully addressed was why Bob said he filed for divorce in the first place. According to him, it wasn't because of the daughter, it wasn't because of the tension in Virginia, it was because Melaine cheated on him and posted about it online. Look at the craziness. 5 parts of storytelling, thousands of people believing a man abandoned his wife for her daughter. Meanwhile, the actual reason for the divorce sat buried in a comment most people never saw, because once a viral narrative spreads first, corrections almost never catch up to it. The first version becomes the permanent version in people's minds. And Melaine understood that. She never needed hard proof, she only needed repetition. 5 parts, endless implication, a cash app in the bio, and by then, other voices finally started speaking up. The ex-husband, the daughter's friend, and eventually the daughter herself. But the daughter stayed mostly quiet for a reason, because she understood something important. Any response would become more fuel for the story. Let's start with the friend.
TikTok drama is not fucking funny when you know the people actually involved, and I wish that y'all would realize.
She came forward because Melaine crossed a line she couldn't ignore anymore. She posted photos of the daughter's dead grandmothers and asked what they would think about what the daughter had done. Meanwhile, according to everyone around her, the entire story was false from the start.
Meaning you don't even have enough respect for the dead to stop lying on your own child. You don't have enough respect for yourself to stop lying on your own child.
The friend had spent months telling the daughter not to respond. Ignore it, stay quiet, let people talk. But dragging dead relatives into a public accusation was the moment she stopped staying silent.
I know her daughter. Her daughter's in a relationship. She did not do nothing to that fucking lady. That lady's some type of narcissist.
Then the daughter responded herself, quietly, with one post and this caption. Sometimes you have to watch your mom publicly accuse you of sleeping with her husband and go about your day. This was no 5-part playlist, donation links, or dramatic series, just a photo with the man she'd already been dating for 5 years and a caption that said enough on its own. She wasn't with the stepfather. She never had been. Here was her real boyfriend, her real relationship, end of story. But Melaine screenshotted the post immediately, posted it on her TikTok with a caption, "You've just sealed your fate," to her own daughter, publicly in front of millions of people. You've just sealed your fate. That didn't sound like a hurt mother defending herself, it sounded like a threat. And honestly, it explained more about their relationship than the entire TikTok series ever did. Because according to the daughter, this behavior didn't suddenly appear after the videos went viral. This had been the pattern for years.
Was she a good mother to you when you were a little girl? Absolutely not. My earliest memories are of me hiding in the closet, scared of her, of my life, calling my dad at work, being like, please help.
The daughter described a childhood built around fear, physical outbursts, verbal attacks, constant emotional explosions anytime her mother felt challenged or questioned. Instead of growing up normally, she grew up learning how to manage her mother's moods. Then came the part that completely changed everything happening now. When the daughter was 10 years old, Melaine cheated on her biological father with a man she met at a bowling alley. The marriage collapsed, but instead of admitting what happened, she built a different version around the story.
This woman cheated on my dad, came up with a whole story, a whole victim story just like this.
According to the daughter, Melaine went around their town telling people her father was abusive, dangerous, horrible, and she told her own children the same thing. And because the daughter was only 10, she believed it.
Her friends, her family out in Idaho. I'm getting nasty grams in the mail from her mom talking about she's disowning me as her granddaughter. This is the level of fictitious storytelling this lady does.
Eventually, someone outside that version of events stepped in. The daughter sat down with her father, heard his side, started piecing things together for herself, and slowly she realized the story she'd grown up believing wasn't true. Then she moved in with him. She rebuilt a relationship with her father over the years while Melaine kept trying to tear it apart. And when he died, leaving the daughter the house she's renovating now, Melaine reportedly made the funeral about herself too.
And my dad died, and naturally, I think me and my little brother just wanted someone. And we just kind of overrided everything we knew about her and still invited her to come out. And it was so bizarre. From the moment she got in the house, she was just hysterical. bawling on the floor, throwing tantrums in my dad's chair, in my dad's bed, just like all this really, really weird behavior. And mind you, like when my dad was alive, this was the same lady telling me she couldn't wait until my dad died.
The same father Melaine had spent years painting as the villain and allegedly tried to separate her child from. Then, after he died, she showed up at the funeral performing grief for a relationship she'd already destroyed years earlier. Then she moved into the house he left his daughter. And according to the daughter, she burnt that relationship down too on the way out.
She lashes out on people because she has this deep-seated trauma and shame around certain things that she's done in her life that she doesn't understand why she's done them.
Moving on.
And when I got in that storage unit, I was so angry when I started. And I destroyed everything in that storage unit. And I recorded it and I made a TikTok video.
A storage unit held nearly a decade of memories, wedding photos, awards, family heirlooms, personal belongings. Melaine walked inside and started destroying everything. She filmed herself doing it and uploaded the videos on TikTok. She smashed Bob's belongings, broke things apart, scattered glass over the mattress, made a video while laughing in her car. People cheered her on, told her Bob deserved it, supported her because they only had one side of the story. But there was one detail people kept ignoring. She was laughing through all of it.
They're coming for me. They're coming for me.
She framed the entire thing like a victory lap, and thousands of strangers applauded her for it. Meanwhile, according to the daughter, Melaine had also started driving past her workplace, banging on windows, yelling, creating scenes big enough that police eventually got involved. And for the daughter, that fear wasn't new. It matched the same fear she'd described from childhood. Melaine claimed they reported for the fun of it. Bob's version sounded much simpler. He wrote, "We did not have her committed. We agreed to check the box for mental health eval when Virginia filed charges. She failed the eval. The sheriff thought it would de-escalate her if they kept her for evaluation. Nothing sinister or malicious." Virginia filed charges because of the destruction she filmed herself committing online. During that process, authorities checked the box for a mental health evaluation. Then professionals evaluated her and decided she needed to stay. Not Bob or the daughter, the facility made the decision. That part gets buried inside Melaine's version of events. The facility kept her because she failed the evaluation. She stayed there for 7 days before her father signed her out early. According to the daughter, Eller relatives had hoped she would finally receive serious treatment.
That it turned into a 30-day hold, but it was actually because she got a hold of her dad and called her dad. And these are just things she's telling me. Like I said, I don't even know what to believe anymore, ever.
Right.
But that her dad had signed something to say that he'd be responsible for her or whatever, and that's how she got out after 7 days.
After she returned home, Melaine posted part 5.
Melaine was served an ECO after she was posting multiple videos depicting her decompensating behavior. Melaine was seen destroying marital property inside of a storage unit on TikTok.
She read her paperwork out loud on camera as proof she'd been wrongfully targeted. Even the documentation referencing her destroying property on TikTok became, in her mind, evidence of conspiracy. Then she reached the part mentioning her daughter.
Their involvement with the person's health care, including their location and general condition. And guess what? My daughter objected. She objected to the hospital letting her know where they were taking me.
Melaine framed it as betrayal, but in reality, objecting to notification meant the daughter didn't want involvement in her mother's treatment decisions or updates. Considering everything that had already happened, that sounded less like abandonment and more like a boundary, a necessary one, especially from someone who had already spent years trying to manage behavior like this.
To post her daughter's deceased grandmothers and say, "I wonder what they would think of you knowing what you did," knowing you're fucking lying. Knowing you're fucking lying.
This stopped looking like ordinary family drama a long time ago, because Melaine wasn't only telling the story anymore, she was benefiting from the attention around it financially. Then shortly afterwards, she upgraded to a larger truck and camper. And the more attention the story got, the more emotional the content became, because Melaine understood exactly how to keep people invested. She knew when to cry, when to sound defeated, when to sound angry, when to post something vague enough to deny later, but specific enough to plant an idea in people's heads. That's when the posts themselves started becoming part of the performance. She'll post a video about toxic daughters, then immediately post something about all men being cheaters, then go back to, "I never said they were together." Each post does its work. Each one nudges the audience a little further toward the conclusion she's laid out. And then when people say she's implying it, she says she's not implying anything. When people in the comments demanded proof, she promised receipts, but always failed to deliver.
Somebody says it didn't. They say, oh, well, it didn't happen how you think. And then they say, it did happen again. And then they say, I'm going to post receipts come Monday. Monday comes, there's not a receipt in sight. Just a completely different version of the story she told.
At one point, the daughter privately messaged someone spreading the rumors and simply tried to deny the accusation quietly. That person immediately forwarded the screenshots to Melaine. Then Melaine posted them publicly and treated them as evidence of guilt.
She messages someone and that person's like, no, I believe her, and sent the screenshot to her mom. Her mom posts the fucking screenshot. And it's like, oh, you seem guilty because you're defending yourself.
Defend yourself and you're guilty, stay quiet and you're suspicious. There was no correct response once the internet had already decided on the ending, so the daughter mostly stopped responding. She kept posting about renovations, kept posting her boyfriend, living normally. According to the daughter, all this wasn't a sudden breakdown. What Melaine showed us was a pattern repeating itself again. Melaine's first marriage reportedly ended because she cheated. According to the daughter, Melaine herself originally got involved with a married pharmacist in the 1990s. He already had a wife and children when their relationship started, meaning the exact accusation Melaine aimed at her daughter was something she herself had done years earlier.
She was the pharmacy tech. The pharmacist was in his late 40s, married with 2 kids, and she slept with that man, got pregnant, and that's how I was born. So, like, the irony of this whole thing is not lost on me. Like, why are you accusing me of something that you harbor such deep shame over? It's weird.
Same cycle. Cheat, rewrite the story, become the victim, turn people against the other side. Only this time the audience wasn't a small town, it was TikTok. As of now, Melaine is still posting on TikTok. The legal situation is still ongoing too. There's a criminal case tied to the destruction of Bob's property, including the camper, storage unit, awards, and family heirlooms. Then there's the civil lawsuit Melaine says she's filing against Bob and the daughter. Meanwhile, Bob still works for Melaine's family in Idaho. The same family she claims turned against her still kept him around, still considers him family. He lives in Idaho, the daughter lives in Virginia. Not exactly the setup people imagine when they hear the story TikTok turned viral. I care for her, and I want her to get help and find peace. That's coming from the man she accused of conspiring with her daughter against her. Meanwhile, the daughter kept renovating the house. She never launched a giant response campaign, never made a long expose series. She posted one photo with her boyfriend, one caption, then she went back to work. Because people who know the truth don't always feel pressure to perform it publicly. Sometimes they keep living normally and let time speak for itself. Then there are people who keep filming, keep posting, keep feeding the story because the audience itself becomes part of the validation. Melaine keeps filming, the daughter just keeps, well, renovating. And somewhere between those two things sits the real story.